Temperature is starting to drop, which means it's time to start thinking about how you're going to do your chicken care in the winter. If you're a first-time chicken tender during the winter, it can be a little bit intimidating. So in this video, I'm going to lay out everything that you need to know for keeping chickens in the winter. I live in Southeast Minnesota and it gets a little chilly here in the winter. Keeping chickens through it though is still very doable, especially if you have the right setup. It's really not as hard as you might think. So let's get into it. Hopefully by the end of the video, you feel much more prepared. The first thing you need to know is that your chickens are hardy birds and they will be okay through the winter. They have a bunch of different tactics on staying warm. Their feathers keep them insulated. They huddle together. Sometimes they lift up one foot and tuck it in for an even extra warmth ball. They can tuck their head under their wing actually, and there's another way to stay warm. If you set up your coop correctly, they can stay warm in there and they don't have to leave if they don't want to. They burn a lot of extra calories in the winter to help them stay warm. They really have all sorts of methods. So if you're concerned that they're going to freeze out here, unless it's negatives for a very long time, they'll probably be okay. Some people really like to pamper their chickens and they're going to disagree with some of the things I say. Other people are more of they're just birds, they'll be fine. I like to think I fall right in the middle. I take some extra precautions to make sure their coop is warm enough, but at the same time, I'm not going to invest a ton of money into this coop and make it some big elaborate castle for them to be in all winter if I know they're going to be okay. So just a disclaimer. First, let's talk about your coop since they will be spending a lot of time in there, especially when the days get a lot shorter and they're in there for later in the morning and earlier at night. One of the most basic ways to keep your coop a little bit warmer is by doing the deep litter method. That basically means that you put shavings in there and never clean it out all winter. You just keep piling shavings on and on and on. They will break down. Breaking everything down creates its own little heat source underneath, so the floor is a little bit warmer for them. Sometimes you can feel that is a tiny bit warmer. It's not going to be like heat waves coming off of there, but it will be a warmer source than if you clean that out every single time and put fresh shavings on. So deep litter method is fun because you don't have to deep clean your coop as much as you do in the summer, but then when you do clean it in the spring, it really sucks. So pros and cons, I would say mostly pro, but that one con is awful. If you want another heat source, very controversial, but I put a heat lamp in here. I just make sure it's not really close to the floor. It's not super dusty. I come in and dust it off every once in a while, so I avoid as much fire hazard as I can. I've used this for the last 2 years and it has been great. So I have no complaints about those. Just throwing that out there. I had this in here now because it's getting into the 40s at night and I still have some ducklings that are a little bit young for that. So I just want to make sure they have some extra heat. I know some people like the heat plates that the birds can like sit on top of, and it's like a little heat pad kind of thing. You can also get panels that go on your wall, like heat panels, and line your coop. That is really cool, but not something I'm willing to spend that much money on. So if you are, all the power to you. Go for it. Your birds will love you for it, I'm sure. That's an option. You can also just do the deep litter method and nothing else. They don't need an extra source of heat, again, unless it gets like really cold. And then even sometimes people say they don't need anything. That can get a little bit sticky because if they get really cold for an extended period of time, sometimes they'll get sick afterwards, then they could die. Did they die from the cold? Indirectly? Kinda, yeah. But it's not a guarantee. Obviously, they might be completely fine. So the precautions that you take, weigh the pros and cons, see how cold it's going to get for how long it's going to be cold, and then make your judgment on there. I will say if you do decide to bring them in somewhere, it doesn't need to be in your house that's like 70 degrees. You can take them into a garage or a basement or a shed somewhere that might be 30 degrees or 40 degrees. Chickens don't have the best temperature regulation. So if you take them from 0 or sub-zero to somewhere that's 70 and then a week later it's 10 degrees and you're like, oh, I'm going to put them back outside, that can be a lot for them to give and take. So I would recommend putting them in somewhere that's still cold, that isn't super warm compared to the outside, but is a little warmer if you're going to move them inside. Another thing to think about is how you're going to do water. I usually feed them out of this bulk waterer, but these cups and the little spouts freeze during the winter, so I can't do that. So I had a heat pad plate type of thing, and I just put a big bin of water on it, so that kept it from freezing, and I actually left it in the coop with the chickens. So the snow wouldn't get in it, and it wouldn't get dirty and stuff as fast. So I just left it right in there in the coop, and that worked really well. I do have ducks now, so I can't really do that this time. Still brainstorming what that's going to look like. Want to make sure they have enough feed during the winter. You also want to make sure it's quality feed that's giving them enough proteins and fats and calcium, everything that they need to bulk up and stay nice and meaty during the winter. I use Grubbly Farms. I use them for everything. Love them. I'll put a link in the caption if you want to check them out. Another thing to think about is snow. This goes for whether you free range or you have a run. You probably will want to be shoveling out wherever they're going to be. At least my chickens do not like to walk in the snow because their feet get really, really cold. So I come out in the winter and I shovel, if it snows a lot, a little path out to the yard, and then I just make like a big square for them so they can run around at least in that space without worrying about their little feet getting super cold. If you're in the run and there's some kind of roof over it, then you obviously don't have to worry about that. But if it's somewhere where snow can get in, you're going to probably need to shovel for your chickens to enjoy roaming and not just sitting in the coop all day long. That's about everything I can think of for the winter. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments below. But hopefully you're feeling a little bit more prepared to take on this winter storm with your chickens.